Hey guys, I'm back. So today I'm going to be finishing chapters 1 and 2, or maybe more. We'll see what I get to. So let us get started. Okay. Okay, let's see. So it's on page 4. I didn't get to read much that day because I was not really doing too great. So I'm fine, don't worry. So I'm going to get started right now. One moment. Let's see. Okay, perhaps a witch lived there in the cottage. Perhaps she'd invite me in and cast a spell on me and keep me prisoner. Perhaps I'd be rescued. Perhaps I wouldn't be. Perhaps I'd found my own way home. Maybe I'd write a story about that girl. But now I wanted to explore the woods in real life. I might come face to face with animals I never seen outside of a zoo. Deer, raccoons, possums, foxes, nothing big and dangerous like a bear or a wolf. They probably lived in the mountains I'd seen in the distance. When Aunt Alice and I sat down for dinner, I asked her if she'd ever met Miss Dupree. Sorry about that. Okay. Once Aunt Alice said, "It didn't go well." Why? What happened? Not long after I moved here, I saw her walk past my house. I tried to introduce myself. You know, like people do, she looked me in the eye and said, "No need for instructions. I keep to myself. That's why I have a fence. That's why I have posted no trespassing signs." I've never spoken to her again, nor she to me. I leaned across the table, eager to hear about our strange neighbor. What does she look like? It's hard to say, Zoe. She's not really old, but certainly not young. Not pretty, but not ugly either. Aunt Alice slipped her iced tea. She's average height, I'd say, and thin. Her hair is gray, and she wears it in a knot at the nape of her neck. She paused a moment before adding, "There's definitely something strange about her, maybe because she lives alone and hardly ever leaves her house." Oh, I'm so sorry. I realized I just read this part. Sorry if I did. If I did, just fast forward. Okay. So this neighbor, she probably ever goes outside. Zoe, the main character, is trying to find out more about her mysterious neighbor that hardly ever goes outside. They know some characteristics about her, but they want to find out more, but she's kind of like mysterious. Anyways, I'm going to start again reading because I'm running out of time. Well, not really, but I need to do some other things. So, enough of me chit-chatting now. I'm going to get started. Okay. Maybe it's her cats. She has at least a dozen. All black, totally wild, the skinniest, ugliest cats I've ever seen. The cat's really ugly. Wild cats. They roam the neighborhood killing birds and terrifying pets, both cats and dogs. Children, too. Now I picture Miss Dupree as a fierce old lady with her screwed tightly into a bun, wearing a saggy dress and sneakers, but meaner than the grouchy old women in Brooklyn. Aunt Alice surprised me by saying, "The few times I've seen her, she's been well dressed, beautifully tailored clothing, long, flowing scarves, that sort of thing. Very expensive, I'd say. Where does she go dressed up like that?" "I have no idea, but sometimes she comes in an old taxi. The driver usually follows her in. He leaves with an armload of boxes. He must deliver them for her." "What's in the boxes?" No idea. She laid down her fork. It's odd now that I think about it, but I've never seen that cap anywhere else in town. She helped herself to another piece of chicken and passed me the platter. While I ate, I made a plan to follow Mr. P the first time I saw her. I'd keep an keep an eye out for the cab too. Sorry about that. Okay. And Alice tapped my wrist to get my attention. The exact same thing Mom did. You seem very curious about Mr. P. Believe me, she's a very unpleasant woman. Please stay away from her and her woods. When she says no trespassing, she means no trespassing. I busied myself with my chicken, and Alice was right. I was actually more than curious about Mr. P. She was a she was a book I couldn't wait to read. After dinner, Aunt Alice and I played a game of Scrabble. During the other times I'd visited, we'd settled into our own special routines. Scrabble after dinner, pizza on Fridays, eating out on Saturdays. At the same moment when Aunt Alice won the game, Mom called. I told her about the woman next door and the woods, and she told me about her day at the office and the meeting she'd chaired. Mr. Cheney was very pleased with me. I think I'm on track for either a bonus or a promotion, maybe both. That's great, Mom. Congratulations. Thanks, Zoe. I miss you, kiddo. The apartment is empty without you. I miss you too, Mom. If I know my sister, she'll keep you entertained. You won't be bored. I asked her to put my cat on the phone, even though I knew Suki didn't understand anything. I said, I hope she recognized my voice. I miss you so much, Suki. I wish you were here. Suki meowed once or twice, but I couldn't be sure. She knew it was me. After Suki got off the phone, Mom asked her to talk to her sister. I told her I loved her and handed the phone to Aunt Alice. By then, I was so tired I could hardly keep my eyes open, but once I got into bed, I had trouble falling asleep. Maybe I wasn't used to absolute darkness at home. At home, a streetlight shone in my bedroom window. Headlights made tracks across my ceiling. Neighbors' lamps kept their windows lit long after I fell asleep. Finally, I gave up and perched at the foot of my bed, staring out into the night. In the dark, the woods were even more mysterious. Fireflies winked on and off in the trees, like thousands of tiny Christmas lights. I could almost believe they were magic lanterns carried by invisible creatures like will-o'-the-wisps in fairy tales, as dangerous as they were beautiful. I searched for a light from Mr. P's house, but the trees hid even the smallest glimmer. Maybe in the winter, when the trees were bare, you could see it. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be here then, unless Mom and I came for Christmas, but usually she had too much work to take off more than Christmas Day and sometimes Christmas Eve. Though I didn't see anything, I heard a strange whirring noise. It came and went as if the night breeze carried it to me and then took it back. The sound must have been coming from Mr. Priest's house, but I couldn't figure out what made it. Maybe she had visitors, but that wasn't very likely. As far as I could tell, she was very unfriendly. Why wouldn't she invite anyone to her house? After a while, I lost interest in the noise. It just went on and on, never changing, never giving a clue as to what made it. Shivering in the cold night air, I closed the window and slid under my covers. Surely I would sleep now, but I was as tense as ever. Right side, left side on my back, and on my stomach I flipped and flopped. I couldn't get comfortable no matter what I did. If only Mom had let me bring my cat. Suki slept beside me every night. She purred in my ear and put me to sleep. Without Suki's warmth to comfort me, I gave up and did an exercise my gym teacher taught us. Beginning with my feet, I relaxed my whole body piece by piece, toes, ankles, shin bones, knees, and so on until I finally fell asleep. Chapter 2. I woke up to sunshine and bird song. The woods were a dark shade of green, shot through with yellow from the sun. Still mysterious, but nothing like last night. Pulling a hoodie over my pajamas, I ran downstairs, hopping from step to step like a dancer in an old Fred Astaire movie. Aunt Alice was in the kitchen scrambling eggs. Sunlight shone in the window, and the radio was tuned to classical music. From the back, she looked so much like my mother. I almost forgot Mom wasn't here. I was just about to wake you, Aunt Alice said. I'm due at the library at 8:30. I think I told you earlier, but I wanted to make sure you remembered. She poured herself a cup of coffee and set a plate of scrambled eggs, hash browns, and toast in front of me. I ate already, she told me. I was too hungry to wait for Miss Sleepyhead to get out of bed. Wow, this looks better than the breakfast Mom and I get at the diner. I picked up my fork and got to work on the eggs. It tastes better, too. While I ate, I told Aunt Alice about the weird whirring sound. Did you hear it? She shook her head. My bedroom's on the other side of the house, but in all honesty, I sleep so soundly a tornado wouldn't wake me. Do you think it was cicadas? She shook her head again. Too early in the summer to be cicadas. Maybe Miss Dupree had company, I suggested. And the whirring sound was some sort of weird music. I can't imagine her having guests, Zoe. Well, what did I hear then? Maybe you were dreaming. I've had dreams so real I woke up thinking they actually happened. I ate a slice of toast spread thickly. I ate a slice of toast spread thickly, with Aunt Alice's homemade blackberry jam. The best I'd ever tasted. She could be right. I had vivid dreams too. But usually mine were about tsunamis or wars or maniacs climbing through my window to kill me. I was sure I'd been awake when I heard the whirring sounds. Aunt Alice carried her cup to the sink. What do you plan to do today? Hang around the house, I guess. Maybe go for a walk. She kissed me and picked up her purse. See you around 3. Thank goodness for summer hours. After she left, I went to my room to get dressed and make my bed. As I was smoothing the spread, I heard a noise and looked out my open window. Right below me, a big black cat slunk out of the woods. Several black cats, all long and skinny, followed the first one. Miss Dupree's cats, I suppose, just as mean and ugly as I'd imagined. They looked up and saw me at the window. Their leader growled and laid back its ears, and the others lashed their tails and hissed. All of them, that is, except one, a small cat, not a kitten but full grown, the runt of the litter maybe, as delicate and pretty as can be. She was totally out of place in that tribe of big mean cats. Gazing up at me, she rose on her haunches like a meerkat, her eyes on me and me alone. If ever a cat needed a friend, she did. The others skulked away through the weeds and brambles, but the small cat stayed where she was, looking right at me, just the way Suki did when she wanted something. Oh, you're so sweet, I called. Come over here and I'll feed you. You look so hungry. The cat crept closer to the tall wooden fence dividing my aunt's yard from Mr. Pre's property. She hesitated, unsure of me, so I whispered again, Kitty, 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 in whispered version, kitty, kitty, kitty. I held my breath as she put one paw under the fence, then another. Slowly she poked her head through the gap. Just as she began to creep into my aunt's yard, the leader of the cats burst out of the weeds. The small cat whirled to face it. With a savage smack, the big cat knocked her to the ground. The small cat rolled on her back and lay still, clearly giving up. Oh, I called to her. Get up, run, don't let that bully hurt you, the big cat growled as if to say the small cat belonged to her. Giving her a vicious cuff, the bully chased her into the woods. You haven't won, I shouted after the cat. Just wait and see. I'm going to rescue that cat and nothing you can do will stop me. I ran outside to the fence. It was too tall to see over, but I found a loose board and pushed it aside. The cats were gone as if they'd never been there. Somewhere in the woods, a couple of crows cawed back and forth. Later, after I'd eaten lunch, I sat in the porch swing, and waited for Aunt Alice to come home. It was almost 2, only an hour to wait. The summer had begun just as I imagined. I had a book and big glass of lemonade. I pushed my foot against the porch and the swing swayed gently. After a few minutes I heard a soft meow. The small cat sat on the porch railing and stared at me. Her eyes were pale green and as round and shiny as marbles. Well, hello, cat, I said. Have you run away again? She twitched her tail and kept her eyes on me as if she had something important to say. Maybe she was hungry. Maybe she wanted me to pet her. Maybe she was just curious. I patted my lap. Come here, cat, and tell me everything. Instead of accepting my invitation, she stayed where she was and washed her face, never looking away from me. Are you hungry? Still watching me, she continued, grooming herself. Everything about her was neat and dainty. Do you like tuna? I asked her. Her ears flickered and she meowed so softly I barely heard her. I stood up, expecting her to run, but glad she stayed where she was. Wait right here. I went outside, opened a can of tuna and put a dab on a saucer, moving slowly so as not to scare her. I pumped the food on the porch. Without making a sound, she jumped down from the railing and snipped the tuna. In less than a minute, she was licking the empty plate. I gave her another helping and sat beside her on the porch floor. Cautiously, I reached out and stroked her. She was so thin, I felt her spine and her ribs. Instead of running, she purred. Do you want to stay here with me? I whispered. Her purr became a rumble and she rubbed her head against my leg. She might as well have said yes. You'll be safe here. I won't let those horrible cats come near you. I stroked the soft place under her chin. How did you ever end up with them? Suddenly her back arched and she whirled around. The leader of the cats jumped onto the railing. The small cat leaped from my lap and darted into the bushes. The mean one ran after her. The small cat raced ahead as if her life depended on getting away. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I will finish this chapter tomorrow, probably. So, you have a great night, afternoon, morning, or, I don't know, whatever it is by you, or noon, whatever it is. Have a great time. Bye.